welcome to Cozy Home. Today, let us see how to care for these beautiful orchids. In this video, let us discuss in detail about how to look after them properly, how to water them, the type of pots we need, the type of soil we need, all these things. So, let's get started. These orchids or phalaenopsis, these are usually grown in the tropical forests, and generally they anchor from the trees or shrubs. They don't directly grow on the soil, but they hang on to the bark of the trees. So the type of soil these grow is mostly the bark type of soil. It's not direct any kind of potting mix or anything, but it's just the bark that these grow. I'll show you. For example, see, usually the type of bark, the type of soil is this kind of bark that is grown on the trees, and that acts as the medium to grow for these orchids. Some orchids also grow on very rocky soil. So the first very important thing to remember for these orchids is soil water retention. The soil is very important, that it do not retain any kind of water, or the drainage should be absolutely proper. So whenever you water this orchids, make sure there is no water retaining in the pot. Now let us see how to choose the right orchid plant while buying an orchid. The first thing you have to remember is, while buying an orchid, make sure all the buds are not bloomed. There are still some buds left over like this to be bloomed, so that you will have an orchid plant blooming all over flowering all through the blooming season. You will have flowers on the orchid all through this season. So make sure when buying an orchid you have some kind of buds like this, and not all are flowered. This is one very important thing. It's not very important, but it when you buy an orchid and you have it at your home, it looks beautiful only when it is flowering, right? So this is also an important step to remember. The second one is, check the leaves, how the leaves are when you buy an orchid. The leaves should be turgid. It means they should be rigid like this, and they should not allow you to fold like this. It means when an orchid is heavily dehydrated, they become floppy and you can fold them very easily. See, and now I'm not able to fold it properly. If I force it, it just tears here. So an orchid, a particularly healthy orchid plant, should look like this, with all the shiny leaves, and it should be turgid like this. And next comes the root system. The roots, these roots tell a lot about the health of the orchid. Generally, these roots, if they are like silver color like this, it means the orchid is dehydrated and it needs its drink of water now. I actually left it to water because I want to show how to water in this video. So the roots, if you see here, you can see some green roots inside. All these green roots show that the orchid is actually healthy, and the roots have to be fluffy and green like this. If these are very dry and silvery kind, it means the orchid is very dehydrated and it needs its water now. These are the points that you have to remember while buying an orchid, and the type of pot is also important. This type of pot is usually 6 inches or 4 to 6 inches long, and the soil used is generally bark kind of soil. It means it does not retain any kind of water inside. Bark like this. And it is advisable to take the containers which are transparent and plastic like this, because you can see through how the root system is doing, whether it needs water or it is rotting inside or it is too dry inside. So it means through the transparent kind of pots like this, you can see through and determine the health of the orchid. So this also plays an important role. So these are the steps you need to remember while choosing an orchid plant. So how do you water orchids? Orchids usually need water once a week, or it also depends on the climate you are living in. If you are living in a very dry climate, maybe it needs water twice a week, or it's relatively normal climate, you need to water once a week. But the most determining step in this part is, in watering orchids, is the root system. The root system tells a lot about watering orchids. Generally, I water my orchids once a week, and see these roots here, they are green now. It means it is well hydrated and it does not need water. If these roots here, they turn silvery color like this. I can show you the aerial roots that are actually usually silvery in color. See, if you see the root here, this is in silver color, right? So if you find the roots inside are also in this silver color, it means your orchid needs water, and then is the time you have to water your orchids. Generally, you can leave your orchids to without water for a week or so, but do not overwater them. They can stay like that for more than a week without water, but do not overwater them. Now I will show you how to water this orchid. Here I kept my orchid plant right in its own pot and just directly pour some water. Right on the roots. As you are watering, you can see the roots turning green. It means they are hydrating well. And pour the water like this until up to the brim of the pot. So pour water like this. You can see the water is has come until the brim of this container. Now just let it sit. Let this pot sit in the water for around like 5 minutes or so. And we are letting the roots absorb all the water, moisture into it, and then we will remove this water and make sure the pot has completely drained all the water, and then put it back in its container. Now you can see my orchids are well hydrated. It means the roots are green in color and it does not need water for the next 1 week. I need not worry about watering my orchids for more than a week or so. So this is how we water these orchids, and now I want to talk to you about these roots that are hanging out like this. These roots are generally called as aerial roots because they are grown into the air like this. They do not live in the bark or the soil. They stay in the air, so they are called aerial roots. These roots are generally made from the dead material that orchids usually have, maybe the dead leaves or something. Orchids using that material produce these kind of roots. So that's why these are generally silvery in color or brown in color. The major use with these orchids is they act like a sponge and try to absorb the humidity available in the atmosphere. Since we make sure orchids do not have any water in it. These roots try to absorb the humidity available in the water and stay hydrated. So that is one reason why these can stay longer even if we do not water them for more than a week. So that is all about caring for these orchids, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and please share with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel Cozy Home. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.